Hey, welcome Mission Hills. We are so excited to have you back for some more staff picks today. I'm Colin, I'm on the communications team, and we have Craig Smith, our lead pastor.
Hey everybody.
I'm really excited for this one. At the beginning of the year, Craig tasked us to develop a reading plan.
Yeah.
And, we as Christians always call it devotionals, but I really like to use the words reading plan, so it's kind of the less intimidating nomenclature for it.
Sure.
And I'm excited to have you here today because along with developing spiritually, we also want to encourage you guys to develop both personally and with your leadership skills. So I've asked Craig to come in today with some of the leadership books that you'd recommend. So,
yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be good.
It's going to be good, man. So why is it important to develop your leadership skills in addition to this?
Yeah, some of it depends, I think, on how you think about leadership. Sometimes people think of leaders as being the one who's in charge, and that's not necessarily the case. I think leadership is really, it's the exercise of influence, and God's given all of us influence, and so the question is, are we leveraging that influence for what God intends it for? And the study of leadership really is the study of how do I use the influence that God's given me, whether I'm a CEO or a manager or a mom or a dad or an older brother or a neighbor. A neighborhood person, somebody who lives in a neighborhood and therefore has influence over the people around them. So yeah, it's just about how do I leverage that influence. And I just think it's important that we develop an intentionality about that.
That's really cool. And so every one of us in some form or another has leadership. So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
So why don't you just start us off with the first one you got for us?
Yeah, actually, the first one, I didn't have a book. I read it on Audible because that's been really useful to me. It's a new book by Andy Stanley. It's a very short book, very simple book, but really powerful. It's called Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets. 5 questions to grow as a leader, I think is the subtitle or something like that. And it's just been really useful because these 5 questions get at the heart, I think, of why God has given us influence. And they force us to ask, am I actually using it for what God intended it? Again, no matter what kind of influence it is, it forces us to go, am I using it the way God intended it? It's been great.
I really like that. That's a good one to look. The first one I got for you guys is Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey A. Moore. So my whole professional career and all throughout school lived in the marketing world. And this book is all about how to market in a disruptive economy. And whether you're in sales or marketing or not, it's an interesting book to read to just understand how culture can change so quickly and how you as a person with leadership in any form can adapt to those changes well. Gotcha. And so even if you're not marketing the next iPhone or anything like that, or you're not working for a company that does it, it's good to understand just kind of where we're at in our culture and how economy changes. So
I love marketing stuff because it's kind of got its finger on the pulse of how we're thinking as a culture, and so I actually love that stuff. So that's great. I'm going to check that one out.
You'll like it.
My next one is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Excellent, excellent book, and it's basically just about why the why is so important.
That starting point.
Yeah, it's about having a clear and compelling why. Why are we doing this? Why are we heading that direction? Why are we investing in this way? And why that is, it's so important for helping people get on board with it and actually become champions of what you're doing. We so often tell people what to do without the why, and it's really hard to get people to do what you're hoping they'll do if they don't understand why it is that it's so important. So this is a great book.
Kind of getting everybody, going in the same direction, everybody believing in the same thing, and anything Simon Sinek does, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, and it's powerful too. One of the things he spends a lot of time doing in the book is talking about Southwest Airlines, and I'm a big fan of Southwest because of their culture. And their culture is all built around everybody understanding why we do what we do. And I think there you get to see a great example of how powerful a compelling why is.
That's really cool. Next one I got for you guys is going to be Whale Hunting. And it's by Tom Searcy and Barbara Weaver Smith. Make sure I don't butcher that. And even if you're not in sales, this is a great book. So the whole piece behind this is don't chase the little fish, chase the whale, land the big account for your company. But at the heart of the entire book is developing relationships. And so I've never worked in sales, again, I'm in marketing, but it's this human element written in the secular sales book about understanding the people around you and kind of meeting them where they're at. And I think Jesus did that so often. I just found the ties between Jesus' ministry and how they kind of teach people to do these big kind of landing the big client type thing. The parallels between them were incredible. So I would encourage anybody that's looking to just go out and talk to your neighbor or maybe a coworker that might be a little tough and you just want to develop a relationship. This is a great book for you.
Love that. That's fantastic. Another one I've got, again, I read it on Audible, so I don't have a copy here, is Mindset by Carol Dweck. She rocked my world. I think I probably grew up with the idea that a lot of things about us are kind of settled at a certain point in your life. Your IQ, your leadership ability, your athletic ability, so many different things. You just got to have sort of a genetic ceiling.
Sure.
And reading her work, it's very intensely researched. A lot of kind of clinical stuff going on, and absolutely convinced me, man, that's probably garbage. Honestly, most things about us can be grown. And the question is whether or not you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset.
Okay.
Fixed mindset says, I am what I am, there's not much I can do about it. The growth mindset says, I can work hard at it. And it's really interesting, even as a parent, really practical, realizing how easy it is to tell your kids, oh, you're so smart. But that actually, it creates a fixed mindset. They're like, oh, I'm just this way, and now I'm actually afraid to try new things, because if I fail, then maybe I'm not as smart as you said it, and in whatever I am, that's what I am. So you don't say that. You say things like, man, you worked so hard at this. At least add that in, where you're saying, actually, the effort that you've made is 100% as important as the innate ability you might have. Been just really powerful in the way I think about leading teams, but even parenting.
That's really cool that you're able to kind of learn stuff, even right now, that you can just put into so many of your personal and professional life.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, I have Craig to thank for this next book as well. It's called Good to Grape by Jim Collins.
Yeah, we did that one together, right?
We did, and this was an incredible read. It was. It's hard for me to call business books page turners often. But this one was one that I couldn't sit down, and it's really statistically and research driven, which I appreciate because I'm not that way innately. I tend to be more towards the creative big picture thinking. And so he dives into a bunch of companies and why they failed in their sectors, and a bunch of other companies that you would think would be successful and aren't successful. And it's just this really cool look into kind of the core competencies of a business and understanding kind of the branding nature of who that company is at their core, and then the leaders that drive the success too. And there's just some really cool pointers that you can pick up throughout this book. It talks about all sorts of different little changes that you can make. And it's really interesting to think, because they're doing these things on a corporate level. But as we talked about, you can take away these little tiny leadership pieces and kind of implement them into your life. And I thought it was a really good one.
Well, my last one is Death by Meeting. Everybody hates meetings, right? This book was really useful to me as I began to think through, like, why is it we hate meetings, and what can I do about it, right?
Yeah.
And realizing that there's really a purpose to a meeting, and that is to get something done. And if you don't have a clear sense of why, to go back to another book I just talked about, your meeting's kind of doomed from the start. But with a clear sense of what it is we're trying to accomplish, why are we here together at this moment, at this time, at this table, then you can actually create meetings that, like, you don't dread. And I've actually, because of that book, I'm not in any meetings right now that I hate, actually.
That's fantastic.
Almost all the meetings that I'm in now, I actually look forward to them. And I have that book to thank.
I think when quarantine hit, we all were all hoping Zoom would kind of take care of that need for us, but I think it just kind of carried over, and reading that book will help people kind of get through all the fluff on the outside and really move towards the good points there.
Yeah, even honestly, there's some interpersonal stuff probably in terms of the way you think about it. If I need to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, it's not a meeting per se with a bunch of people in a typed up agenda, but it's the way you think about what we're trying to accomplish in this, and some clarity around that and how you get to that point. So I think it's even interpersonally helpful, although it was intended for business settings and church settings, because we have enough meetings in the church to rival any business, I promise you.
Well, that's really cool. Well, we want to encourage you guys to strive for just progress over perfection, no matter what you guys are doing, whether it's reading a couple pages a day out of the Bible or listening to an audiobook every once in a while. We just want you guys to pursue progress over perfection. If any of you guys are interested in any of these books that we've gone through with you today, we would highly encourage you to swipe through the next slide here, enter your email address and which book you're interested in. We're going to be picking 3 winners and sending these books off to you guys to hopefully encourage you to keep moving forward with your personal and leadership growth here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, Craig.
Yeah, my pleasure.